Welcome. Part of our continuing series. Sorry, 1 second. Okay, sorry, minor change. Part of our continuing series where we talk to different professors, scholars, activists, reporters, anyone that we can get a hold of on the left and the right. Their particular opinion on political polarization or the psychology underpinning it. We just did an interview with a psychologist on that. Today, I wanted to talk to Michael HOUT. He's the professor of sociology at New York University. We weren't able to get a full interview, but we were able to get one question answered. But first, let's cover him. Sociology degree from Indiana University and a University of Pittsburgh sociology and history degree. He's also taught at New York University, and he's worked at the University of California, Berkeley, the Nate Cohen Professor of Sociology and Demography, and a Professor of Sociology, Associate Professor of Sociology, and Associate Professor of Sociology at University of Arizona. This was the study where I found the professor, Immigration, Race, and Political Polarization. Americans' views of immigrants are substantially more positive than political discourse since 2010 might suggest, and they're becoming more positive. So too are whites' views of blacks, and as racial resentment declined from 2010 to 2018. Views of immigration and race became more correlated over the last 20 years. While Republicans' views of immigration and the racial resentment have changed very little since 2010, Democrats' views of immigration have become far more positive, and their racial resentment has declined substantially. The consequences of these trends were borne out dramatically in the 2016 presidential election. In combination, the two attitudes predicted well who voted for Trump and who voted for Clinton. These trends and correlations make clear that xenophobic Americans are not ascendant, they are desperate. So race and immigration and politics is one of the dividing issues with political polarization right now. So I asked him about political polarization. I was able to get a question answered. So I said, let me ask you one question. Do you see any reason to believe that political polarization will calm down naturally in the future? And he goes, yes. I'm like, okay, well, that's not much of an answer. But then he included this link, which went to this article. So this article is by the very famous Delia Baldessari. She is famous in this field. Was there a culture war, partisan polarization, and secular trends in U.S. public opinion? According to many scholars of public opinion, most of the fast-growing divides between Democrats and Republicans in the last few decades have taken place on moral issues. We find that the process of issue partisanship, the sorting of political preferences along partisan lines, properly accounts for public opinion dynamics in the economic and civil rights domains. However, when it comes to moral issues, the prominent change is a partisan secular trend in which both Democrats and Republicans are adopting more progressive views, although at a different rate. While Democrats are early adopters of progressive views, Republicans adopt the same views at a slower pace. The secular change can be easily misinterpreted as a sign of polarization. So he referenced that article by Delia Baldessari. She's the person who came up with this theory that political polarization isn't real. You just have culture wars. So, for example, you go back to the 1960s and women burning their bra was highly radical, supported by the left, not by the right. Now, nobody cares. You can go back to the 1990s. Gay marriage was a left issue, not a right issue. Now, no one cares. So they're pointing out that all these culturally dividing issues eventually in the future go to some point where the Republicans don't even care. And so if you look at it from that way, there's no actual difference in opinion. It's just early and late stage adopters of moral trends. So I go, do you see polarization will calm down? Yes. And I said, oh, you're going off the Baldessari theory, that there is no real division in America. Progressives adopt a stance and defend conservatives for a while, but eventually they adopt a new stance. Okay. To which you responded, yes. But before the conservatives come around, it's a major wedge issue. So will things calm down? Yes, because he believes that generally there hasn't been political polarization in the sense that there's immutable characteristics that people can't come across or come to some sort of agreement on. Rather, what he thinks is that you have a series of cultural issues that happen because of demographic changes, et cetera. And conservatives argue with liberals for a while, but eventually always come to adopt that position. Another one would be Obamacare. 20 years ago or 15 years ago, conservatives hated that idea. Now they basically accepted it's there. So that was his theory. He goes off this very famous Baldessari theory. And that was his opinion of if polarization will calm down. And that is from the professor who wrote this book on racial polarization and political polarization. And it's this professor here. Well, that's it. We'll come back with more as we have it. We'll be right back in a minute with even more.